All right, take us away, Devante.
Cool. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Brevity's live webinar. Once again, thank you guys for joining today. Where we're going to be covering or going over an overview of the changing technology in AEC. And yeah, without further ado, let's kick on. Brevity is the interiors engineering firm specializing in seismic design and compliance. We help construction professionals and asset owners to navigate complex regulatory environments. And who we have today with us, we have Matt Bishop, who is the Brevity founder, veteran engineer and consultant. Matt has over 2 decades in construction, including 15 years leading a consultancy specializing in commercial interiors and seismic safety. He also founded Penguin, a software platform revolutionizing commercial interior design and regulation, and he consistently seeks to make construction smarter and more efficient through technology. And I myself, Devante, market lead of Brevity. I am to drive market growth by developing strategies, identifying opportunities, and building key industry relationships. I've also dealt with being a sales rep and also an industry consultant within Brevity, proactively managing project timelines, budgets, and client expectations. And without further ado, we have a Slido just after this, but we will be covering 4 points today that we prepared. We have AI research and professional development. We have developing BIM extensions with Cursor, which we'll show a little bit more at the end of the presentation. Engineering methods using Python, Google Colab, and GitHub, and web app development using Cursor, React, Vite, and Firestore. So we have a Slido here. This QR code goes to our live Q&A, and also a couple of questions that you can answer along the way. So if you've scanned the QR code, it should take you to a link called Slido. And we have our first question. What industry are you from, and what sector of construction are you from? So I myself, we're from Brevity, and we focus on interior seismic. We got building, structural engineering. Cool. So we'll leave this question open, and you can just comment where you're from. Yeah, I'll leave this one open. So we'll be transitioning over into our first part of the presentation, which is AI research and professional development.
All right, so the first thing I've got is how I'm using AI to speed up learning or remembering different procedural areas, different standards, different processes, compliance pathways, and things like that. So I had one the other day that I was looking at, which was concrete anchors in Australia. And I know a fair bit. I know that there's the standard 5216, and it's referenced in NCC, and that talks about C1, C2 anchors, but I want to know more about it, and I want to know specifically about interiors, about walls and ceilings and how it affects that. So I use Gemini, and I use the 2.5 Pro model, and I use the deep research option, which essentially goes out on the internet and does a whole lot of research and writes a report. And you can see here that it's written up a plan which you can go over and amend, and if you think it doesn't really fit your needs, but this looks pretty good to me, so I press start research, and it comes back with a report. And you can see the report is pretty damn detailed. This is saving me a lot of time going over all the different aspects, and it's gone into detail. It's pulled up some of the important parts around redundancy, around seismic actions, Appendix F. It's got into the table from the AEC, this one here, which does a good job of summarizing. Then you can also see down the bottom a whole lot of references. So if I want to go back and understand myself what needs to be done, I can come into any of these references here and do that. But that alone's not fast enough. I mean, this has saved me a lot of time going out on the internet and finding and reading the documents I need to read, but still not the best way to go. So I also use this tool here, which is called Notebook LM. And what you do with Notebook LM is you ask it to, you upload sources, and in this case I've got the report that I just showed you, and then I've got another report that I created with ChatGPT. So I'm doubling up on my different AIs here. I'm not relying on one particular method or source, and I've used the ChatGPT research tool to provide another version of the same. Got those two there. It then gives me the ability to ask questions across those different sources. But more fun is the create a AI overview or podcast of that information. So then I can go back and I can play that.
Okay, let's unpack this. Ever stand in a building, maybe it's an office, a shopping center, or even your own home extension, and look up at a suspended ceiling, or lean against an internal partition wall?
Hang on, let me find a more interesting part. Maybe down the back here.
Installation errors must be pretty common out there.
Unfortunately, they are far too common, and they are a major, perhaps the major, cause of anchor failure in practice. Adherence to the manufacturer's installation instructions, the MII, is absolutely paramount. It's not optional.
What sort of simple steps are critical?
Things like drilling the hole to the exact correct diameter.
So yeah, there you go. That gives me a 30-minute podcast that I can listen to on my walk around the block with the dog, and gain that high-level overview of what I need to go into next, what I need to worry about.
Have you tried using the study guide or FAQ function on Notebook LM?
No, I haven't. I bet you they're good though. I have tried the mind map, and that's definitely worth a look. This is it's taken the sources, and it's pulled out the main themes that are in there, and you can see, like, for example, seismic design, C1, C2, and there's the differences and the definitions between the two.
Wow.
Crack width of 0.8 mil compared to a crack width of 0.5 mil. And it's laid that out really well.
That would be really good for training new engineers.
Yeah, or old engineers that have got too much in their head,
Yeah.
All right, see, now we're both on the screen.
Cool. So if you do have any questions on that first part, there's a Q&A on Slido. You can drop any of your questions throughout the whole presentation. And that was just a quick overview of how to utilize Gemini to create training, to create podcasts over documents that you've put in there. Yeah.
No, that's great. To go back to that slide just quickly, so as we can, so people can pick up their code again. You want to go quickly through the video. Go back and all right. So the first thing. There we go. So just for folks to pick up, any questions you want to ask us on any of this as you go through, we'll address at the end. You can do that through this link. Cool. Yeah. All right. So we're moving on to developing BIM extensions with Cursor. And this video is a short insight of what Matt's been doing with BIM. And then we'll show a little bit more at the end of the outcome of that video. So now I'm going to use Cursor, which is a code development environment, but with AI built into it, to create a extension for a BIM tool. In this case, I'm using SketchUp. Be the same for Revit or ArchiCAD, just different setup. Essentially, SketchUp's in extensions in SketchUp are built in Ruby, which is a language I have no idea how to use. But luckily, Cursor does. So what I've got is I've got Cursor running in the plugins folder for SketchUp. So everything I create here goes straight into SketchUp. I'll have to reload SketchUp to see the differences, but essentially we can get it to do something. And I want to do something real simple just to demonstrate the process. So create a simple plugin for SketchUp. I'll tell a version just in case it needs to check the APIs. We want to be able to click on a shape and change its color through a color picker that will pop up when we select the shape. So I'm being quite descriptive about what I'm doing, and then I just send it off. So this is, if anyone has coded before, this is very much just a typical coding environment. However, now with the agent on the side, it just opens up so much possibilities. You can see it is creating, over here, it's creating MB, Matt Bishop color changer, and it's created a loader. And now it's going to create the actual directory and files as well.
So when you're prompting it, it's actively updating it in the plugin folder and going straight to.
Yeah, it's writing the code for me.
Wow.
There's a lot to Cursor, and kind of just touching the surface of what we're doing here. There's a whole lot of different models that you can pick. All of the standard ones, that's OpenAI, O3, this is Anthropic, and then the Gemini models are the Google ones. So I'm using Gemini 2.5 Pro for what I'm doing here. So it's created a simple load-in file to load in color changer, and it's created a simple picker to do that.
Wow.
And we'll accept those, which will load into SketchUp. Not directly though, you won't see them come through yet, because we have to reload SketchUp to make that happen. So I'll just quit and reopen. And I'll open up a folder. I don't know why I opened it in inches. You'll see that it hasn't worked. And what we can do is this, and this is critical to developing apps, is that we can go into the console and see what the issues are in the console, and see why it hasn't loaded in. Yeah, that actually didn't tell us anything there. Yeah. To from here, extension didn't load. Wasn't recognized. And I think that'll be because it missed the requirements up the top here. I've got other extensions that I've created here as well, so what I'm going to do is tell it to look at those extensions and see whether it mapped the right changes. essentially, if Cursor is working on things it knows well, like a web app in React, it will do really, really well. Working in Ruby, which it doesn't have a lot of information on, it tends to make a lot of mistakes. So you send it off to look at other things. It's gone into another file in the plugins directory, and it's had a look at the pattern there. And it's realized that it has to add extensions RB to make it be recognized.
And now that's good to go?
We'll see. And it's really quite good fun because I have very little idea what's going on. I have sort of like basic coding knowledge.
Yeah. So Cursor is good for entry-level people who are trying to learn coding or want to do something with coding.
Yeah, it's a great bridge between the technical and the coding. Still hasn't done it. Might have to leave this one be. But what I can do is down the bottom here, I can also change the mode. Agent writes code,
yep.
Whereas I can ask stuff about it as well. What is the core components of a SketchUp extension? And I can use it as a learning tool at the same time as I try and understand what's going on and what's being missed. I'll have to make one that works and actually post it through later. But that's the basic process. I've got it to work a couple times before, but not this morning, it would seem. So yeah, that's a quick touch on BIM extensions or plugins using Cursor. Right, so a quick update on that one. It took me another maybe 10 or so minutes to figure out how to do that particular one, and I'll just present my screen through so you can see where I was going. Should take over and all that. Okay, and we'll get that for a second as I find Sketcher. And yeah, it had a little issue with the nomenclature it was using, but once I figured that out, you can see I've now got a quick color selector which is running, which means I can change the color of any of these faces. So there you go. Did work. Just took another couple of minutes. Right, back to you, Devante. Cool. We might highlight over what the possible issues were on that one, but we'll move over to engineering methods using Python, Google Colab, and GitHub. If you do have any questions as well, feel free to comment through on the Slido Q&A as well, and we'll answer those as we go. This time what we're going to do is create some bespoke Python code for an engineering problem, and we're going to upload that to GitHub, and we're going to look at how GitHub can be used to to peer review and control issues on code. So I've got a real simple example here. This is back to our anchors and fasteners like we talked about in that first video, and inside of this particular document, which is a industry document from the Australian Engineered Fasteners and Anchors Council, there is a simplified method for calculating whether you need C1 or C2 anchors. And it's all based around this here table and knowing your importance level and your soil subclass. And then based on that, getting out your C1, C2 requirements. So what I'm going to do is take that table, and I'm essentially going to ask Gemini to create me a Python version of that table. And I'm going to do that by uploading that screenshot, telling Gemini what it is, anchor requirements, create the Python, create a function to act as create a function in Python to calculate C1 or C2 requirements. I'm going to use Canvas, which is the inbuilt tool in Gemini to create code or documents. So it's already had a look. It's had a look at the table. It understands what the table is. It understands what the importance level is. It's picked out the rows, and it's understanding all the less than and then equal to logic that's built into that table. Now it's having a crack at the function. And you see it's creating a function with inputs being importance level, subsoil class, KPZ. And it's pulled the table into a whole set of if-else functions. And this is its working code. So it's also talking to itself at the same time, trying to decide whether there's a better way to do it.
Wow.
Looks good. Logic seems to hold. Now, some of what it's struggling with isn't so much the coding aspect itself, but the fact that tables like this aren't exactly specific in a logical sense in the first place.
Yeah.
Hard to interpret, even for humans, as to what to do in those edge cases.
So it's going through each of those cases?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And you can see that this is kind of like, I'll go back to the table for a second. When you make simple calls from a table, like I've got soil class C and its importance level 4, so my KPZ equals is greater than or equal to 0.08, I need C2. When you do that, you're simplifying what is actually quite a complex logic, because you're only looking at the little pieces that you need. To turn that into a code version is surprisingly complex. So now if I take that, I can export it to Colab, and we'll have a look at that, because Colab is really interesting. This is a inbuilt coding environment that's all in one browser, and it allows us to write code, run code, and also add in report components as well. So I might say, for example, that this is table 5 from technical note 10. Give it a heading, and I might also upload the actual table picture. So I uploaded it as so I can see what's going on with the code, and I can explain that. It's given it as a function. So if I was to use this function, I would just call it after the definition. and importance level is a integer, so let's say importance level is 4. Site class is a string, so let's say site class is B. KPC value is a float, so let's leave that alone, and then I can execute that. Directly from here, you'll see it's just finding a computer to run it on, and then it'll execute the function. If I've done that right, string, and I also need a KPZ, so we'll say that is 0.1. There we go, it's a C2 anchor. Right?
All of that for an output of C2.
Yep. Yes, but this is now something I can plug into a larger application. It just is part of what needs to happen, and I can call this particular function. But let's say I want to develop this further over time. A good thing to do is to record this into GitHub.
Yeah.
So I'll put it into our engineering standards folder, and that will copy across to GitHub, and we'll have a quick look at that. And you can see that I can go back to Colab from the GitHub, but it's essentially a record of the code. And if there was any errors here, which there may well be, I would want to check this a bit more thoroughly than I've just done for production. I can raise it as an issue, and well, anybody can. If this is a public GitHub, anybody can access this. Anybody can look, raise issues, and then their records. The record of the updates to the issues and the comments all comes through GitHub as well. So this is a great way to consolidate peer review across the board. You can see here's one issue I've got here before, which is pulled through from 1664 on a particular line, and asking whether there should be FTU for ultimate rather than FTY for yield.
Wow.
Yeah. Looks like we had a question come through there, Filante.
Yeah, so we got a question. It says, have you had much success with ChatGPT as an AI tool, or are Gemini, Cursor better?
So you can use ChatGPT in Cursor. So probably more about the ease of the development environment than anything. A couple of years back, we were using ChatGPT to create code, and then copy pasting that code into the dev environment. And the quality of the code now is better, the models are better, but probably more important is the process. So with Cursor, being able to restore your code back to your prompt or the prompt before. So if you write a bad prompt and it writes bad code, or it deletes stuff it shouldn't have and things like that, you can go back up to your last prompt and try again. It's like you can sort of like fork through the questions you're asking until it gets you what it wants. You can do that in Cursor. You can't do that in ChatGPT.
Is that like checkpoints?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Cool. So yeah, moved on from ChatGPT to Cursor, and now there's another thing just come out called Claude Code, which works from Terminal, which might even be better. But I haven't had a chance to look at that one yet.
Cool. We'll move on to our next part of the presentation, which is web app development using Cursor, React, Vite, and Firestorm.
Really brief. This is a quick overview of full web app development. In this case, what we're looking at is the system that I put together to manage all of our different websites, and the CMS that we built, the content management system that we built on the back end of that. And this is all built in, again, I'm using Cursor, but I'm using React, Vite, and Tailwind as part of my tech stack to make it look nice on the web, essentially. I'll just quickly point out some of the core components that's happening here. One of the most important things is a decent README file. And that's a file that tells anybody, I suppose, but also tells the AI what's going on. So in this, the project structure is detailed out, what we expect it to do is detailed out, how it intends to install and everything like that. And I can tell the AI to read this to make sure that when it makes a new module, it knows what was coming before. Because if I look at the history here, I've run multiple different AI conversations as I've gone through and built this project. And yeah, managing the chats and what each chat does is quite important. And each chat, it's a great idea to start with the context of the README so as it can go back and remember what's going on. Now, this code is deployed into Firebase. Firebase is a cloud-based database system, but it's also doing our authentication layer, our hostage, and our storage, and our cloud functions as well. So there's a lot of other things going on there. But essentially tied into a database so that the different information can be stored and accessed, and then hosted out onto our various different websites. And you can see the end result of that being our websites app, where you can flick through the different websites and through the backend CMS as well, with the authentication layer on top of that.
To build something like this with the help of AI, how long did it take you roughly?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was probably a good there we go, there's the CMS system loaded in. What do you reckon? Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
I think so.
I think we spoke about it and then you just made it.
Yeah, it can go pretty quickly. So that's the next level above, and probably where we should be aiming with our engineering apps and deliverables now is right through to this level of detail and customization. No, it's grand, enabling us to control 8 different websites across 4 different services in 2 different countries. Yeah.
All in one.
All in one place, yeah. Right. That is the technical content that we have for you today. And if there's any last questions that anybody would like to pop up now into the Slido question set, this is your chance. Otherwise, you'll find this webinar back on our YouTube channel, and you can comment there or just get hold of us. And that is all good. Do we have anything to add?
I think we have one question that we haven't answered yet.
Oh yeah, true.
Which is, how can Gemini help architects? Can this make documentation easier?
So Gemini or any of the large language models can produce documentation at great rates, really fast. What you want to do though is you want to give it examples into its system prompt of what you want it to look at. So if you've got 4 DFRs that you've done before, or 4 specifications or whatever, and you put those into Gemini or ChatGPT, into its memory, then you can ask it to create a document like that with your project specifics, and it'll go off and it'll give that a very good crack. And you're probably talking about only needing to modify maybe 5-10% of that final document then. So it can definitely go faster. What are gems?
We have another one. What are gems?
Oh, okay, it's interesting. Gems are custom prompts that are set up in Gemini. The equivalent for GPT is custom GPTs, and like mini programs. So we've been using them of late for our newsletter development. So Devante writes up a newsletter and he asks me if it's any good or not. And I know, but I don't really want to know. So what we've done is we've created a different persona for each one of our client groups. Like we have an architect persona, and we ask the Gemini gem for architects what it thinks of the newsletter. And if it doesn't come back with a 9 out of 10, we don't send that newsletter. And then instead of reviewing each newsletter as it comes, if we want to improve the quality of the newsletter, we're focusing on improving the quality of the gem that's reviewing the newsletter, not each newsletter piece by piece. So we get to elevate what we're doing from being a project by project or newsletter by newsletter to a system tool, which is actually working really well. That's great. All right, close this off.
Cool. Yeah, so as Matt mentioned, this recording will be on YouTube. We'll be posting it up, and feel free to jump on our website and make a general inquiry if you do have any questions, or reach out to either me or Matt directly. Stay up to date with Brevity for general inquiries. Go to our website for monthly updates on the progressive tools we use. Go to our LinkedIn, and for long form content to stay engaged, go to our YouTube channel. So that's where the video will be. And yeah, keep in touch with Brevity. And that's pretty much us. Everyone have an amazing day. See ya.
See you later.